We're going to talk about multiplying fractions. Once you reduce fractions, which we'll talk about in a moment, multiplying fractions are simple. You multiply the top numbers, you multiply the bottom numbers, and you put the product of the top numbers in the top, and the product of the bottom numbers in the bottom. If you have 7 over 6, and you are multiplying this by 5 over 8, 7 times 5 is 35, divided by 6 times 8 is 48. Note that it's simple if you know your times table. Learn your times table so you can just do these problems in seconds. 7 times 8 is 3 times 9. Otherwise, it's going to be painful. Let us look at the next problem. We'll even do this problem two different ways. 7 over 6 times 9 over 7. Like I said, we'll do it two ways. Now I notice that the bottom numbers are 6 and 7 and the top numbers are 7 and 9. And I notice that numbers that go into a bottom number also goes into a top number. For example, 3 goes into both of those numbers 2 times and 3 times. 7 goes into both of those numbers 1 time and 1 time. So I multiply 1 and 3, and I multiply 2 and 1, and I get 3 over 2. Here, you can do 7 times 9 over 6 times 7, which is 42. And then you can say, oh, I'm going to divide the top and bottom numbers by 21. 2 comments about that. Good luck realizing that 21 goes into both of those numbers, and good luck knowing how many times 21 goes into those numbers. This way is simpler. I mean, here, I had to know what 7 times 9 is and what 6 times 7 is. They're not the biggest numbers, but they're certainly bigger than 1 times 3 and 2 times 1. Cancel out before you do the problem. Now, a lot of students think that when you divide, you have to, I don't know what to call it, maybe cross divide. That is, you can't divide these two numbers, but you can divide the 25 and the 15, and if anything went into it, you can do the 2 and the 5, but not the 2 and the 25. That is nonsense. The reason it's nonsense is, let's suppose for a moment you can't do it. You can't divide the 5 and the 15 because they're underneath one another. Well, this is equal to 5 times 25 over 15 times 2. But 5 times 25 is the same as 25 times 5 over 15 times 2. Well, that's 25 over 15. What is going on here? That's 25 over 15 times 5 over 2. So if you are correct that you can only, quote, cross divide, well, now I'm dividing the 5 into 15. Something that you thought couldn't be done. You can do it. So let us do this problem. In fact, we're going to do this problem two different ways. Not very different, but different. I can say that 5 goes into both of these numbers 3 and 5 times, and I can't reduce any more. So I get 5 times 5 over 3 times 2. Over here, I can say, oh, 5 goes into both of those numbers 1 time and 3 times. 1 times 25, 3 times 2. Look at that. I got the same answer. It's not just one way of doing problems. You can cancel any way that you like. So if you have 5 over 3 and you multiply by 21 over 7, let's even do that 2 different times. You can divide those two numbers by 3 and you get 1 and 7, and then you can say, oh, 7 goes into those numbers 1 time each. And that's all you can reduce. So you have 5 times 1 over 1 times 1, which is 5. Or you can say that 7 goes into both of those numbers 1 and 3 times. And then 3 goes into both of those numbers 1 time. 5 times 1 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. And the rule for dividing by 1 is don't bother. You just get 5. Did it 2 different ways. I got the same answer. How about we try this problem? Again, how you do it is up to you. As long as you reduce a top number and a bottom number. Never ever 2 top numbers. Now, you can say 7 goes into both of those numbers, 14 and 6, but I prefer to say that 6 goes into both of those numbers 7 times and 1 time. And 7 goes into both of those numbers 1 time and 2 times. And 5 goes into both of those numbers 7 times and 5 times. So I'm left with 1, 7, and 4 on the top, and 1, 2, and 5 in the bottom. Other than 1, no number goes into, oh, I'm mistaken. There is a number that goes into a top and a bottom number. 2 goes into both of these numbers. 2 times and 1 time. So those are the numbers that survive. 172 on the top, 115 on the bottom. Other than 1, nothing goes into both the top and the bottom number. Just for the record, if you want to divide both of these by 1, you're going to get back the same number. Okay, so basically you have 1 times 7 times 2, which is 14, and 1 times 1 times 5, which is 5. And that's the answer. Notice the following. Notice that 5 over 1 equals 5. 13 is equal to 13 over 1. 11 is equal to 11 over 1. 124 is equal to 124 over 1. That is, if you have any number, it equals to itself over 1. So if I ask you to multiply 10 by 2 over 5, if you like, you can think of a 1 there. And then you can say, oh, 5 goes into both of those numbers 1 time and 2 times. And you get 2 times 2 over 1 times 1, which is 4. Or you can just ignore the fact that there's no denominator. The top numbers are 10 and 2. The bottom number is 5. And you know what? 5 goes into both of these numbers 1 time and 2 times. And 2 times 2 is 4. over 1 is 4. If you have 8 times 20 over 4, there's a number of ways of doing this. You can just say 4 goes into 20 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40. You want to say that 4 goes into both of these numbers 5 times and 1 time. So then you get 8 times 5, 40 over 1, which is 40. Fine. You can say 4 goes into 8 2 times. Or 4 goes into both of those numbers 1 time and 2 times. You multiply the top numbers, you get 40 over 1. Or, if you like putting the 1 here, 1 times 1, which is 1. Either way, you get 40. If you have 7 times 2/3, 3. Nothing that goes into 3 other than 1 goes into 2 and 7. The only number that goes into 3 other than 1 is 3. 3 doesn't go evenly into 7, nor does it go into 2 evenly. So, you multiply the top numbers, you multiply the bottom numbers. If you like to put a 1 there, 1 times 3 is still 3. If you have 11 and you multiply this by 6 over 22, whether you like to put that 1 there or not, 11 goes into both of these numbers 1 and 2 times, and then 2 goes into both of these numbers. Always 1 from the top, 1 from the bottom. 1 time and 3 times. So you get 1 times 3 over 1, or over 1 times 1, which is 1. Either way, it's 3. And again, the way you reduce is not unique. For example, same problem. Up here, I divided both of these by 11 first. I could have divided both of these by 2 first. And then I divide both of these by 11. I get 1 and 1. And you have 1 times 3 over 1. Or, if you prefer, 1 times 1. Now this number is not always going to be 1. But 1 times that number will always be that number. So for example, if you had 11 times 5 over 22. 11 goes into both of these numbers 1 and 2 times. So you're left with 1 times 5 over 2, or if you like to put the 1 there, 1 times 2, which is still 2. Okay. This is going to complete the section on multiplying fractions. Reduce first so you don't get really big numbers, because you're gonna have to reduce anyways. Might as well reduce with small numbers than with bigger numbers.